When I gave birth to my second child, I was afraid of the pain and asked for anesthesia. When they gave it, I also took in oxygen to breathe. At first, all I wanted to do was close my eyes so that my mother couldn't see the pain I was in. I began thinking I was afraid of not waking up from the anesthesia they gave me, and I thought it would be well to try and stay conscious, not allowing myself to go completely under, if this is possible to do. I put my attention on the sounds, and at first, they were normal, then it seemed they grew more and more faint little by little until I did not, or could no longer hear them. I began seeing everything white around me, like this blank page to write on. At the same time, I felt a presence as if someone was with me and began explaining to me about some doubts I had at one time. Not with words, but with images and perhaps telepathy, since I do not remember hearing a voice. But, I could understand everything he said, and it was all so clear and obvious that I wondered how I could not have understood this before, and that my mother would also be happy to know it. I understood that everything good and bad happened for a purpose. That God hopes the devil will understand that God is so good that notwithstanding all the bad the devil does, God is unable to cause harm to him. When the devil understands such great love, this whole world system will come to an end, and all will know this other world that people such as I try to describe so poorly. I understood that God is everywhere because the material world hides what scientists so earnestly seek. Even the smallest part of material creation is God. I understood that the brain of a child is capable of learning because its neurons are able to take information as if it were given very slowly, extra slowly, extremely slowly, slowly. I understood that death is more difficult for those left behind, that life on the other side is really what is important, and that this earth life is just a little school. There are a few other things that I saw and learned, but I can't remember clearly what they were because more than a year has elapsed, and what I just mentioned above was, for the moment, what impressed me the most. In the midst of this explanation, I could feel the extreme love that being gave to me. I felt happier than a child in the lap of its mother. At the same time, I felt so privileged to have that experience, and I tried not to forget about my daughter, my husband, and my mother. I understood that if I stayed any longer in that world, in that space, I would not be able to return to this life. When I thought about this, I slowly began to return until I could hear sounds normally. At first they were unrecognizable because they were so slow, as if they were being spoken letter by letter. I then realized that each letter joined with another and another to create a word, and that these words make a sentence, and that this sentence has meaning, and that this meaning is what made me return to earth life. When I opened my eyes, I realized how much pain I was in, and I was in a birthing room. Within my reality, when I closed my eyes, it was as if I was immediately back in that place of peace, love and happiness. I was like that 3 more times, opening and closing my eyes and dreaming again, if it was a dream. The last thing I remember was that I began listening and understanding my mother, who spoke to me in Spanish, then the doctor who spoke to me in English, and I saw the Arabic word Bismillah, the name of God, written as if floating in space. I said this word and I repeated it, and I then realized it was the doctor saying this when my daughter was born. It's customary for Muslims to say this word before any event where we want God's protection and care. When I woke up completely and everything had ended, the first thing I did was see my daughter and then tell my mother what I thought I had seen. But of course, my mother believes even today that it was the drugs they gave me. I believe I was on the other side, and if my mother hadn't been there talking to me, I would have been unable to return, or I would have gone into coma, or I would have died. For this reason, I firmly believe that if someone goes into coma, it is because they are left alone and they are left in a trance, unable to return. It's important to talk ceaselessly to those who are in coma so they can come back. For people in this state, as I already explained, sounds are heard very slowly and have no meaning.